The Woodlands. What is it about? It is the story of a cozy town nestled in a tree high above the ground, whose residents strive to make their world grow with the help of nature. Numerous companies work hard in the woodlands. One of these is the construction company known as Chlorophyll, owned by the friendly Mr. Basili. Chlorophyll uses a rapid growth method using a device called a photosynthesizer, which boosts the growth of the entire tree. But what would a company be without its workers? Tim and Ben have worked for Chlorophyll for several years and know their job well. Tim is a diligent worker who loves watching nature thrive and loves his job. Tim has two best friends, his dog Barky and his co-worker Ben. Ben also loves his job, although his eating habits sometimes get in the way. Not far from Chlorophyll, a young woman named Amber works making sap jam for the residents of the woodlands. Sap, a protective element of trees, is an important source of energy for the woodlands inhabitants, yet for others it can be as lethal as acid. By rolling sap jam into a paste, Amber develops the town's new hit, Sappies, and soon after opens her own restaurant. Sappies are not only the favourite food of Ben and many others, but also an effective energy booster. What would a story be without its dark side? While Tim and Ben try to make things grow and flourish in the woodlands, a group of other characters want to do exactly the opposite, to let the woodlands rot and decay, turning it into a paradise of mold and fungi. Spur and his two cousins, Connie and Camby, have been sent to the woodlands by the Coxey Beach Mold Committee, an organization in an area of the tree infested with rot and decay. Their mission? To contaminate the woodlands and bring it to its collapse. Although Spur and his cousins have had little success so far, they continue to invent new ideas and plans to carry out their misdeeds. In this episode, Darkwood, Mr. Basili has a delivery to Crater Gardens, a company in Darkwood, and Tim and Ben are given the task of making the delivery. Darkwood has a bad reputation and is considered a truly scary place by many of the woodlands. The truck is loaded, and during a short stop at the restaurant to get something to eat, Tim and Ben meet Amber, who joins them for the trip. After all, there is strength in numbers, and Darkwood is weak. Tim, Ben, and Amber walk to the truck, and Ben inspects the load. "I don't think our client wants to use them to build a fence," he says, as he looks at the load of long, wooden spikes. Tim points a finger at one of the spikes. "They're too sharp for that." Amber looks at Tim and Ben as they stand next to the truck. "I doubt they will use those to build fences in dark wood." Ben and Tim look at each other with concern. The three get into the truck, Tim in the driver's seat, and they pull away from the parking lot. There isn't much talk as they drive down the highway. A few hours later, the truck turns down a scary-looking road. Tim stops the truck and looks at the map. "According to the map, we should continue down this road." Tim points to a dark, spooky-looking road as Ben chews on a sappy. Ben looks at the map and swallows. "I suggest we unload now," Ben says as he wipes his mouth. "But we're not even there yet," Tim answers. Amber looks at Tim and Ben. "Let's hurry up and find this place. We can unload and get back before dark." Tim and Ben nod, and the truck continues down the road. The truck passes an old sign that reads, "You are entering dark wood." Ben points to the sign as they pass. "Did you see that? That sign didn't even say welcome." Tim continues to drive, looking out over the road. "Maybe because we're not," Tim says as the sky becomes dark. "Not what?" Ben asks, slightly nervous, reaching into a bag next to his lap. "Welcome," Amber answers as Ben removes a sappy from the bag. As the truck continues down the road, it starts to rain and thunder. "Oh, great, the delivery is going to get wet," Tim exclaims as he continues to focus on the road. "From the looks of things, I don't think it'll bother the customer," Amber comments as she looks at Ben chewing on his sappy. A light appears in the distance near the side of the road. "I hope this is the right place," Tim says as the truck nears the light. Ben swallows. "Me too." Lightning strikes in the distance, illuminating the sky in short bursts. Another bolt of lightning flashes, revealing a man holding a lantern on the road. Tim brakes and the truck stops. The man approaches the driver's side window, his black raincoat and hood dripping from the rain. Ben sits nervously in the passenger seat as he looks at Amber, sitting to his left. Tim rolls down the window. "Hi, we're looking for Crater Gardens," Tim says, looking at the drenched man holding the lantern. The man points down the road but doesn't say a word. Tim thanks the man, and they drive away. Tim looks in his rearview mirror as the man stands at the side of the road holding his lantern. Amber hunches over past Ben, looking out the side window into the dark tree line. "Are those eyes?" she asks, voice trembling. Ben quickly turns his head to look. Ah, they're everywhere! Tim turns his head and tightly grips the steering wheel. With deep, panting breaths, he turns his attention back on the road and swerves toward a small, one-story building in the distance. Ben and Amber scream in fright, holding tightly onto the dashboard as the truck leaves the road. The truck comes to a stop directly in front of the building. Tim, Ben and Amber sit nervously in their seats. A creepy-looking man comes out of the dilapidated building and walks toward the truck. He's coming this way, Tim yells out nervously as he watches the man from his side window. Let's get out of here, Ben yells. Tim puts the truck in reverse and tries to drive away, but the rear wheels spin in the mud. Forgive me, Tim, but I can't do this, Ben exclaims as he grabs a sappy and nervously takes a bite. The man with the lantern approaches from behind while the creepy-looking man continues to approach the truck from the front. We're done, Amber yells out. Tim, Ben, and Amber close their eyes as the creepy man opens the driver's side door. Welcome to the dark wood, the creepy man exclaims as Tim, Ben, and Amber let out a scream. The creepy man bursts out laughing as Tim opens his eyes. Don't hurt us, Tim yells. Come on, why would I hurt you? The creepy man asks. Ben opens his eyes and notices the hooded man with the lantern staring back at him through the passenger side window. Ben takes a frantic, deep breath. Man, you delivery guys are really nervous, the creepy man says, looking past Tim towards Ben. Amber continues to close her eyes as she sits nervously, clutching the front of the seat with both hands. We just want to find Crater Gardens, deliver the goods and get out of here, Tim says nervously. You found us, or should we say we found you? The creepy man blurts out, nearly laughing. Ben looks past the man with the lantern, at the eyes still watching from different angles throughout the tree line. They've surrounded us, Ben turns and whispers to Amber. Amber opens her eyes and slightly turns her head. I see them too. Well, let's take a look at this cargo. There are bodies waiting, the creepy man says, looking directly at Tim. Tim swallows. Bodies? The creepy man grins and asks, You don't think I'm going to build a fence with these stakes, do you? Hearing the creepy man's response, Tim faints. The hooded man with the lantern walks to the other side of the truck as Ben and Amber sit frozen in their seats. Drag him inside, we'll take care of him once everything's unloaded, the creepy man says. The hooded man sets the lantern on the ground and drags Tim out of the truck toward the entrance. Ben takes a deep breath. I'm not leaving my friend behind. The creepy man smiles. You're both free to join him. Ben swallows and steps back. Amber looks at Ben in surprise. Don't tell me you're just going to stand there. Ben looks at Amber, and without another word, they both run towards Tim. We're not going without a fight, Amber yells. And who would you like to fight? The creepy man asks, as he watches Ben and Amber run towards the hooded man, dragging Tim along the leaf-covered ground. Anyone who wants to, Ben yells as the creepy man hurries towards them. The hooded man is already at the front entrance of the building as Ben and Amber approach. I have bodies to take care of. You can wait inside, the creepy man says in irritation as they stand at the entrance. The hooded man, Ben and Amber, drag Tim into the building as the creepy man stands over them, shaking his head. Come on, we have a truck to unload, the creepy man says, looking at the hooded man. In the building, Tim opens his eyes, looking up at Ben and Amber standing over him. Where am I? Tim asks, disorientated. Inside their building? Amber answers. More like a dark warehouse, Ben comments. Tim sits up and looks at the wall in the room down the long, wide, dark corridor. I think we're not alone. Ben and Amber turn and look at the numerous, stagnant eyes looking back at them through the darkness. It's the end! We're the next bodies! Ben yells out. The creepy man enters the building and turns on the light. Tim, Ben and Amber quickly turn their heads, looking at the creepy man holding several wooden stakes in his hands. Oh, I see you're awake. That's good, the creepy man says, looking down at Tim with a smile. Tim, Ben and Amber let out a scream. Shh! You're going to scare my moths, the creepy man says in a loud whisper as he looks towards the room at the end of the corridor. Tim, Ben and Amber turn and look down the corridor and see a room full of moths with large circles on their wings. The creepy man steps over Tim and walks towards the room. Tim stands and they all follow the creepy man towards the room. The creepy man walks to a corner of the room and sticks one of the wooden stakes into the dirt floor. Here, this is for you, the creepy man says, looking towards the bottom of the wall. A small green caterpillar climbs up the stake and begins to build a cocoon. The creepy man smiles as he watches the cocoon being spun. It's a moth farm, Tim yells out in excitement. The creepy man turns and looks at Tim. What else did you think was in here, monsters? Tim, Ben, and Amber burst out laughing.